Tesla makes a ludicrous announcement. We throw stones at acrylic houses, and a robot who can tell me when I'm being too sarcastic. Tech News Tonight is next.
This is Twit.
This is Tech News Tonight, episode 383 for Friday, July 17th, 2015. This episode of Tech News Tonight is brought to you by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. With one simple integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/technight. Welcome, I am Megan Maroney. Let's get to today's big tech news. When Elon Musk tweets, we listen. He announced a Model S product call at 11 a.m. today, and Roberto Baldwin, senior editor at Engadget, was there, hoping beyond hope that Musk would announce a space car. Roberto is joining us today to talk about whether or not his dreams came true. Welcome, Roberto.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So did he announce a space car?
Well, I mean, it goes really fast, and at some point, if someone built a ramp that was high enough, it would probably end up in space.
So what did he announce?
So he announced the ludicrous mode for the car. Now, we've had insane mode, which made the car go from 0 to 60 in about 3.2 seconds. And now ludicrous mode, the car will go from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, which, if you're a car person and you just kind of follow, that is insanely fast. Well, I guess it's ludicrously fast. And you know, this new thing is going to cost you about $10,000 extra if you want to go from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds. I mean, if you have the money to buy a Tesla, I guess $10,000 isn't that big of a deal.
Probably not. So what if I already have a Tesla, which I do not? How much would it cost to upgrade?
So for your imaginary Tesla, it's going to cost you $5,000 for the next 6 months. So you have 6 months, you can get half off if you already own a Tesla. So that's kind of nice.
So the call was pretty funny. I mean, he said, you know, we could do this, so we decided to do it. Why not?
Yeah, no, it's fun listening to him talk and give presentations, because he clearly has a sense of humor because he just released something called ludicrous mode for his car. So yeah, the reason we did it is no one asked for ludicrous mode, but here's ludicrous mode.
Well, I know with insane mode, there was like several YouTube videos. There were several YouTube videos of people in insane mode, and it was basically like, so I'm sure we'll see something like that, but just like, you know, 0.2 seconds more of.
Yeah, it's almost half a second quicker, which is that's a lot when you're going from 0 to 60. So and it's also 1.1 Gs, so it's faster than if you were falling.
So, but not as fast as a rocket. And he did say that there was going to be a rocket discussion on Monday. Do you have any guesses as to what he's going to talk about on Monday?
Well, in late June, they had a Falcon 9 explosion. One of the rockets exploded. So I'm guessing they're going to talk about what that means for their schedule, what it means going forward. If they have any more information about this explosion, it'll probably talk a little bit about that. So it's going to be a very SpaceX heavy situation. And you know, they're going to space. They're making cars that go too fast. It's crazy over there at the Elon Musk household.
So let's move on to Reddit. We've been talking about this for over a week now. The drama is still unfolding. Yesterday, they had an AMA about AMAs and basically about their policies. Do you think they did a good job at explaining their new policies yesterday?
I mean, they could do the best job in the world. You're still dealing with a community that's running the asylum. You know, what can you say to people who believe that they have full run? And they actually do have full run of this website. They control the subreddits. They control everything about this site. And so, you know, it's really up to kind of talk the community down. And, you know, they can talk about free speech and what that means on Reddit. But, you know, if the community revolts like it did when there was that firing, then the community is going to revolt.
Now, there's been some talk about another website, Vote, I think, VOAT. It's like a Reddit alternative. Do you see a lot of people flocking there, leaving Reddit?
I think they're having some scaling issues. So if they can't, if it doesn't work, then what's the point? I mean, I'm sure people are probably already hopping onto 4chan, leaving Reddit for 4chan. But there's going to be people who are like, I've been a Reddit user for X amount of years, and I'm going to continue to say my horrible, horrible things on Reddit because it's my right as an American. And people, their misunderstanding of the First Amendment it boggles my mind that it's my First Amendment right to say whatever I want on Reddit. I'm like, that's not how that works. It's a privately owned website that has a service, and if they don't want you to be able to say this, then it's their right as a company to say no.
So, I mean, it's complicated because, as you said, they're being, it's run by these people, it's sort of, they're building it on the backs of these people that are giving away their time for free. And so they don't really owe them anything. But I mean, do you believe that they owe these people something, that if it's their community because they're helping to police it and create it and moderate it?
It's a weird situation because Reddit hasn't had a lot of the moderators have had issues with the lack of tools that they need to substantially patrol their subreddits, and so that's and if you're a company that's making money and you have all free labor, basically it's free labor, you should really make sure those people have the tools needed to do their job. But it is a community, and it's the reason it's so big is because of that community. And you wouldn't have an AMA with the president if you didn't have this humongous community that would be able to jump on board. I mean, there wasn't an AMA with this new vote site.
Right. So what was Victoria Taylor, the woman who sort of set off this whole revolt? What was her? I mean, what was she doing so well that made everyone revolt?
Well, she was running AMA. She was running to Ask Me Anything. So, because of her, we had President Obama, you have celebrities, you have people, all of these people, and she's spearheaded this and took control of this. And it became the reason that most people know what Reddit is. I mean, the internet has known what Reddit is, but the average person knows about Reddit because of AMAs. And when she was dismissed or for whatever reason, by whomever, we're not even sure who actually dismissed her at this point. It's, people are saying Ellen Powell, and people are saying, it was somebody else. Then, when you dismiss that person, the community there's going to be some backlash because they know the reason Reddit is so big is because of AMA. That's what really draws people in.
So do you think they're responsible to be a bastion of free speech, which they've said that they have never intended to be?
I think they're responsible to being what they want to be at this point. If they're willing to lose a lot of their community because they don't want to be the bastion of free speech, that's sort of their deal. But if they want to be a bastion of free speech, they have to figure this out, and it's really difficult because free speech, to protect, the free speech you want to protect is the horrible speech. Horrible things people say is what the free, protection is for, or unconventional things. But you have to kind of take responsibility from what comes with that. I mean, you have, Reddit's about rape, which is that. As any sort of site that's trying to build commerce, you probably don't want that on there. And then you have Reddit's with racism. And how do you say that race speech isn't hate speech and doesn't incite violence, especially considering what's been happening in the news lately? But the rape subreddit is gone, but these racist subreddits are still there. Like it's this really weird tightrope that they're walking right now. And they kind of need to figure out how they're going to navigate it. And if you want to be a bastion of free speech, that's fine. That's your thing. But you have to understand that free speech works in both ways. We can sit there and say that Reddit's a horrible place because it has these subreddits.
Well, it's interesting because, I participate in Reddit and now I'm thinking, well, there are all these horrible things. Is it my responsibility to say, well, if you're going to continue to have those sites that are racist or sexist, about rape, like maybe I'll take my community elsewhere. Like, is that where it should? I mean, does it come down to the users?
It kind of does, and it builds itself at the front page of the internet. And it is the internet. It's the internet concentrated. There's some wonderful things on the internet, but there's also some very horrible, horrible things on the internet. And you concentrate all the wonderfulness and all the horribleness, and you get Reddit. Because the internet is built by people. It is built by individuals coming together to make things. Whether even corporations. I mean, you still have people who are building those sites. And so, I think some people are kind of taking stock in how much they want to be part of Reddit. Do they want to be part of the wonderful parts of Reddit? Do they want to continue to build that community? Or have you been just so appalled by, and some people probably don't even know that some of these subreddits exist, so appalled to find out that the place that you love also hosts these other horrible things. And so and when you're voting, whether or not you stay, you're actually voting with your dollar because they're serving ads on that. They're making money every time you show up. And, the idea that we're pulling ads off these hate speech sites. I mean, yeah, but those are still users. And those users, when you're talking to investors, when you're talking to your corporate overlords at Condé Nast, they still look at those user numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it really just goes to show you the difference between a real life community and the world's and the online community. I mean, I grew up in Texas. There were a lot of racist people. There were a lot of homophobic people and sexist people. Certainly, I still love Texas. I still go back there. And there was a lot of wonderful things about Texas. And so, it's I'm not, I'll never go back to Texas because there's some people there with ideas that I find horrible. So, but is an online community different because I'm being served ads different than living in Texas where you pay taxes?
Yeah. It's odd because in real life, people who, if they're racist or homophobic, they'll either temper that when they're out in public, or they will only, or they'll only discuss those, that side of them with other friends like-minded. Whereas with Reddit, you say this horrible thing, everyone can read it. And you also have this sort of you're anonymous. So you really just sort of let it go. And, I'm sure there's percentage of the people who are on some of these sites who don't actually believe this, but they love the trolling aspect of Reddit. The idea that I can come here and I can say these horrible things, even though I don't believe them, for kicks. And that's another issue. That's another part of the internet. People, the trolls, and maybe they're trolling these horrible sites or these horrible subreddits. Who knows? But it's how do you sort of figure out, how do you navigate this? And it's something for the individuals to figure out, because Reddit's, they're going to do what they think is right, but it's really the community is going to be controlling and sort of making Reddit what it is going forward.
Yeah, it's really, it's interesting because the same thing is sort of going on at Google and Facebook and Twitter, and it's more hidden. It's a different model, but it is still just this question of where's the line for free speech on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, Google, Facebook, and all them, they're serving ad dollars, and they're out the gate. They don't want that stuff on there. They don't want that sort of they're not the bastion of free speech that Reddit was or wants to be or attempted to be at some point.
Right. So let's move on. You also wrote a story about something called the Target Open House. It's a giant acrylic showroom in San Francisco. It's meant to be a way for the retail giant to help people imagine what a connected house might look like. What did you think?
I was actually impressed. I expected to go there and just see, a very fancy looking showroom that says, oh, you can buy a Wemo or you can buy a Hue Light, and there you go. Instead, they have the acrylic aspect of it and the little vignettes, which are nice if you, kind of tell people that the connected home or the Internet of Things is more than just turning on your lights with your smartphone. More importantly, they have these deep dive tables where you could go for each individual product, and it would tell you what other products that Target sells, what other products it'll work with, and how it works with them. So, you might get something from Wemo, and the way it works with Hue would be via IFT. And it'll tell you it's via IFT, if this, then that, the online scripting service, which for the consumers is actually really helpful because you buy a Nest or you buy a Wemo, and you feel like you might get trapped into this ecosystem, which doesn't really work as well in the home because you want, you need a Wemo for this, but you want a Hue light for that, but you need a Nest for your central heating. And if none of that stuff talks to each other, it's not really a connected home. It's just this fragmented mess. So with this, it's actually telling people, this thing works with like 10 other things that we sell. And the thing next to it only works with one other thing that we sell, which gives, the consumer a good idea of what they should be looking at. But it's also for the manufacturers when they go in, when their stuff isn't selling and the thing next to it is selling, that kind of shows them, you can't build your products in a vacuum. You need to start working with the connected home or the Internet of Things at large.
So were there really places that just this only works with one thing? Because it seems like Target would be trying to sell you things as much as they could. But were there really devices that only worked with one other device?
Yeah, there was there was a device or two that only worked with one other device or nothing at all. Like one device didn't work with anything. It was very much and so when you're looking at that and you're looking at something that's similar that works with 5 or 6 other devices, that's powerful information that you're not going to get on, that company's product page, and you might not get that on, you're definitely not going to get that on Amazon.com. The biggest issue, though, with the Target open house is that they're only going to have the one in San Francisco, which is sort of, we kind of know San Francisco is a very connected city. It's Silicon Valley. This really needs to happen in Los Angeles and Kansas City and Cincinnati and cities that aren't as, that doesn't have, Belkin down the street. It doesn't have, all these companies within walking distance. Well,
presumably it's in the Metreon, which is highly touristy area. They're probably imagining a lot of people come and, will stop there and on their way to whatever the fancy thing you do in San Francisco. I lived there for 5 years. I can't think of what you would see. The Embarcadero. The MoMA is closed?
Well, they're remodeling it, and everything's all over the city.
Oh. Yes, when you're going to the MoMA or the Embarcadero, then you stop at the Target house to see what you can do. So I know you've written about some scooters, and I would like to hear about them. Let's start with the new Scoot Cargos. What are those?
So Scoot is it's a San Francisco scooter rental service. And so the scooters are actually, they are technically mopeds. So they don't go fast, but you also don't need a California motorcycles driver's license. You can have a regular driver's license, but you don't need a motorcycle driver's license to rent them. So they just introduced a larger Scoot with a very large box on the back. It's called the Scoot Cargo, and the regular Scoot is mostly for commuting, kind of getting from point A to point B. And they heard from their users that people wanted to run errands with them. And while scooters have the under seat area is pretty substantial, especially compared to a motorcycle. These Scoots have the box is huge. You could put a pizza in it, or 4. You could put 4 pizzas in one of those. The box is huge. So you can just throw a bunch of junk if you want to go shopping. And it's really for these sort of these urban dwellers who don't want to buy a car, but they still need to get around the city. And it's for, I believe it's $4 for a half hour to ride this, which is cheaper than an Uber. It's cheaper than a taxi. It's more convenient than Muni, which is the local bus service. You can just hop on one of these, ride to your local market, buy a bunch of junk, throw it in the trunk, throw it in that giant box. Yeah, buy 4 pizzas, which is my Saturday night.
Are they just in San Francisco?
They're just in San Francisco right now. They are investigating other cities, and they're also investigating cars. So they have that Renault car out in front of their company headquarters. So
what about the Bolt e-bike?
So the Bolt e-bike it's another moped. It looks like a BMX bike with an electric engine connect to it. It's actually a pretty fun little bike. It does like the Scoot. It's also set as a moped, so you're not going to be flying around at 50 miles an hour. Both of these bikes are limited to 30 miles an hour. But because it's actually technically a bike. It's not even technically a moped. It's technically a bike, so you can ride it in the bike lane, which in San Francisco, where we have some very aggressive bicyclists, may get you some dirty looks and probably getting yelled at. But it's technically a bike.
So how much does it cost?
Now, before I tell you, they're hand building these things. These are hand built, but the initial will be $4,500. The initial cost for
dollars.
Yeah, exactly.
Not pizzas.
And the final retail version will be about $5,500 to $6,000. So they're not cheap. These are not cheap, but they are. They look like a cafe racer. They're actually really fun to ride. I rode one around for the day last week or a week before, and it's actually really fun to ride. But it is pricey. It's about the same price I paid for my Vespa, which is 250cc. But with the Bolt, you don't need a license at all. Like if you don't want to worry about licensing, you don't want to worry about registration, you don't want to worry about insurance. I guess in the long run, this will probably save you. It'll probably save you some money. Also, you get to ride in the bike lane. Right,
and if you can deal with the dirty looks.
If you can deal with the dirty looks, which you'll probably get in the bike lane. If you're in the bike lane with anything besides a bike, if you're in there with a skateboard or definitely a Segway, you're going to get dirty looks in San Francisco.
Well, Roberto, thank you so much. Roberto Baldwin is a senior editor at Engadget, and he is at Strange Ways on Twitter. That's Strange Ways with no vowels. Thanks so much, Roberto.
Thanks for having me on.
Take care. Coming up, Microsoft will make us update and a happy story about a tweet. But first, this episode of Tech News Tonight is brought to you by Braintree. That's code for easy online payments. If you are thinking about developing a mobile app, or if you're already a mobile app developer, you should take a look at Braintree. They are a payment solution used by companies like Uber, Airbnb, Hotel Tonight, Living Social, and Munchery. Braintree has made the payment experience in these apps easy to use, basically seamless, and magical, if I might say. Now you can add a similar experience to your own app with excellent customer service and simple integration. Braintree gets you ready to receive payments quickly, and Braintree's continuous support plus fast payouts means you'll be prepared as your company grows from your first dollar to your billionth. Braintree is helping solve the problem of mobile cart abandonment. They offer a best-in-class mobile checkout experience that really works. Check it out for yourself. Braintree gives you a full-stack payment solution, support for all payment types your customers might want. So right now with Braintree, you can start accepting PayPal or Apple Pay, Bitcoin, Venmo, credit cards, and more, all with a single integration across all platforms with superior fraud protection and great customer service. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/technight. Now on to a few more stories we're following today. In Windows news, the Register reports that updates for Windows 10 Home Edition will be mandatory. According to a new licensing agreement, automatic updates will be turned on by default, and there will be no way to bypass these forced updates. I hate to go all Martha Stewart on you, but this is a good thing. We need Microsoft to protect us from ourselves. Here's some more Microsoft news. According to a story on Business Insider today, Microsoft's new Edge browser is 112% faster than Google Chrome. These figures come from benchmarks released by Gabe All, Microsoft's head of the Windows Insider program. PC Magazine says that spam rates have fallen below 50% of all email for the first time in 12 years. Those figures come from the Semantic Intelligence report that says out of 704 billion email messages sent in June, 353 billion were classified as spam. Now, this is compared to June 2009, the golden age of spam, some might say, when 5.7 trillion of the 6.3 trillion messages sent were spam. The drop is attributed to better blocking and filtering and not spammers suddenly seeing the light and realizing that they were just being big jerks. If you've been listening or watching, you know that I have become fascinated by the minuscule details that Google has reported about accidents that have happened with their self-driving cars. Today, they announced that their autonomous vehicles were involved in their first injury accident. And as you can probably guess, it was not the robot car's fault. Several Google employees suffered minor whiplash on July 1st when a distracted driver in another car ran into the back of their Lexus RX 450h prototype. Google's self-driving car czar Chris Urmson said, "Our self-driving cars are being hit surprisingly often by other drivers who are distracted and not paying attention to the road. What I wonder is if those drivers are actually distracted by the really cute self-driving cars. See how cute they are? Time will tell. ABC News reports that Aaron O'Dwyer, an 18-year-old from Liverpool, England, walked by a homeless person on the street. O'Dwyer offered to give the man change and noticed that the man was holding a stack of his own resumes that he'd written out by hand. Instead of walking by the man or even making a fake offer to help that he wouldn't follow through with, O'Dwyer went home. He took a photo of the resume and then sent it out with a tweet. Immediately afterwards, businesses in the area responded with inquiries, and the mayor of Liverpool even offered to help. And finally, according to Mashable, IBM's Watson computer can now stop you from sending passive-aggressive emails. This week, IBM began testing Tone Analyzer. It's a service that uses cloud-based linguistic analysis that allows users to analyze email messages before sending them. It will provide feedback on how readers might perceive blog posts or help understand the potential impact of terminology choices in any kind of text-based communications. As soon as this is available, I plan to run the text of this show through there because I have always thought that computers were much better than people at understanding nuance in language and tone. And that is it for this edition of Tech News Tonight. We are on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/technewstonight with the number 2. If you like us, you will get links to the show when it's posted and the stories we talk about. You can also subscribe to the show at twit.tv/TN2. You can write to us at tn2@twit.tv and watch live every weekday at 4 p.m. Pacific. And don't miss our morning news program, Tech News Today. That's every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm Megan Maroney. Thanks for watching.
Bandwidth for Tech News Tonight is brought to you by Cashfly.com.